Afternoon all. You wouldn't think that yesterday it was about 8 degrees, and today I've got my coat on, but it's just crazy warm. But I mean, what a contrast in weather that we're getting. I mean, just look at that. I mean, that is just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm heading into the park, Sutton Park, and just stretch my legs, get a bit of fresh air. Nothing really on my mind today. Avoiding politics. You know, like I said in an earlier video, I don't care that much. I don't really care that much about, you know, what politicians are doing, because they all screw you over anyway. Don't see much hope in the political structure as it is. But right now, this is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful weather. So back in the day, believe it or not, there used to be a waterfall here. I would love actually to see some pictures of this waterfall, because it used to be like rockery, and we used to sort of climb up right to the top. Used to be a bit of a challenge. Occasionally we slipped in, got wet. This is like the overflow to Weir. So a couple of light ducks over there. I'm quite decided where I'm going, but I might just kind of like follow the route that we used to take as kids. I don't want a massive walk. I'm feeling very unfit. Just a little stroll, just to stretch the legs. But like I said, I'm tremendously unfit. Back in the day, this used to be called the La Reserve. La Reserve. Very French. Just walking through the car park. It's Miller and Carter now, I think. I'm the only one around in 2020, 2021. You realise that this place was like terrorised by youths who were climbing on top. Some of them were like jumping off. Not very safe. But I can't think of I have been here for a meal, but I can't think if it was Miller and Carter back then. See how much I'm out of breath. But I've also kind of got up this morning with a bit of a migraine, so I do miss nature so much. I generally go kind of chase. The weather hasn't been good. Last year I was a pig. It is what it is. You know, it's part of life. And but yeah, it was a shame last year. I started out with great intentions, and then I had the weird illness that I had. I probably think it's probably not as weird as it appeared at the time, but I don't want to tempt fate. It was something that was quite not very nice at the time, to say the least, and it stopped me from having the confidence to just get out and, you know, enjoy the sunshine. We had a lovely summer last year, and I was just a bit too worried to do anything with it. I usually go up to Cannock Chase to investigate the paranormal, but I didn't very much last year, and when I did, I just kind of took it easy. I didn't make it a big deal about it with people, but you know, we don't get that many people anyway, so yeah, it's great. Just if anybody remembers, I think it's just there used to be like a little kiosk that used to sell snacks. Absolutely wonderful back in the day, back in the 70s, and you used to get your ice lolly, and used to always have like a little joke on the ice lolly, something daft. I don't know if they still do jokes nowadays, but you know, jokes have to be very tame and generic, and you know, it's not really jokes anymore. You have to kind of be able to laugh at yourself, I suppose, but yeah, jokes now aren't really that. Yeah, there's a lot of birds about. There must be a lot of worms about then, because they're all hanging about, probably waiting for the rain, so you can start tapping their little feet, well, big feet actually, on the ground. I'm sure birds are getting bigger, or whether I'm just getting slower. 59 years old now, and it's odd, but I've lived a very sedentary life over the last 20 years, I'd say, about 20 years, yeah. I had a sudden spurt of energy in 2007 when I started work. We had a mixed football game and that was fun, but as I've got a little bit older, my legs have, well, my knees more specifically, have decided that they don't want to play ball anymore, so it's a win, but it's actually not a cold breeze, it's quite warm. Yeah, I mean, you could easily be fooled into thinking this was you know, a late April day knocking on the door of May, but it's not. It's, you know, we're still in March. It should actually be a lot colder than this. You know, I mean, I do kind of feel for these little fellas. You know, they come out, they get a bit disappointed by the weather, then next thing you know, it's gone freezing cold again, and yeah, it's freezing cold, and you know, they die again. Incidentally, on the subject of bees, there is a very close to where I am, across the water on the road where the cars are, sort of over there. So let's see if I can zoom in. I can't zoom in. Okay, so across there is a house on Monmouth Drive that actually sells honey, and I started getting my honey from there because I suddenly realised that the honey I was buying from the supermarket wasn't actually honey, it was blended with syrup, and there's no source of where that honey came from, but it doesn't even say 100% honey on it, it just says clear honey. So it's and the way to tell with honey is if you drop a spoonful of honey into a glass of cold water, real honey will stay in like a little formed blob. It's thicker, it's real, and fake honey or stuff that's blended with syrup will dissolve into a glass. Maybe not at once, but it will dissolve, and it's a very easy sort of test to do. And you can really tell the difference. You know, with now I'm buying new honey, £9 a pot. I don't mind because it will last. Really tell the difference between that and the syrup honey. I might still buy the syrupers, but I have sweetener. I use stevia in my coffee. I believe that's a bit healthier. That's healthier than sugar. So I use stevia. Probably won't necessarily buy any more honey after this. Not from the supermarket anyway. Yeah, you've got to be really careful with buying stuff from the supermarket. It's I've learnt a lot from YouTube, and one of the things I've actually learned is I always like my tuna, so I used to buy lots of tuna, and having it in sunflower oil was always very tasty, but the sunflower oil is really not good for you. So I know our videos about this, and it's a shame really, because you know, the tuna is very good for you, but the sunflower oil isn't. So I've substituted for the same price sunflower oil for spring water. That's got to be a lot better. A lot better. So for anybody interested in the mystic of life, there is, supposedly, if you believe it kind of thing, a ley line that runs. Now, should I go down there or should I go down here? Decisions. Do you know what? I might go down there for a change. So there is a ley line that runs from the back of Powell's Pool. It's called the Albion Ley Line. I think it might be referred to something else. But it runs basically from the bottom of a country right up to the top of Scotland. And it's the only one in the UK that actually supposedly does that. And there's a guy there, he must be walking his dog. Way ahead. Yeah, so this ley line anyway, it runs across the back of Palspool. It actually ran through where I used to live, which was just up the road off of College Road, for anyone who knows in Sutton Coldfield. And it also runs sort of close to where the Jamboree Stone is. Just about see the Palspool River. Still, absolutely beautiful day, gorgeous day to be out in the park. So the route I'm heading to will run kind of fairly close to the back end of the golf course. All people, more dogs. Very popular route for walking. Hello. How you doing, right? It's nice, very wholesome. Dogs need walks. Cats need eye contact. This is going to kill me off, by the way, because I'm now going to kind of head a little bit uphill. It just goes to show how unfit I am. But the only way to get fit is to actually move. So ultimately, something I want to aim for this year is to get a little bit fitter. Could follow a diet, I suppose, but inevitably what I learned about diets. See what I mean? So the thing I learned about diets is that if you break them, it kind of goes disastrously wrong. But if you just stick to make a few tweaks here and there, cut a few things out, then it can make a big difference. Obviously, as I've just said, cut out things that with hidden issues, like the sunflower, blended honey. And I say drinking water is really good. What I've started doing, I'm going to make a habit of this as well, but it's the only thing with sun changing temperature. We've gone about 9 degrees up from yesterday to today, and that is not used to it being this warm. So yeah, anyway, I was saying about diets. I studied psychology. I managed to get a degree in it. It's nice, yeah. I got a 2-1, which was more than I thought I'd get. But it's enjoyable. I was a mature student. Graduated in the the late 2000s, and I remember saying to one of my lecturers, he was a lecturer in nutrition and behaviour. I said to him, Mike, what's the best diet you can go on? He said to me, Gal, the best diet is eat less, do more. Which surprised me. I thought he was going to come up with some sort of fancy technique or something, but it wasn't a dietitian. He dealt with nutrition and behaviour, mostly what goes on in the brain, and that's when I learnt about what is known as the diet boundary. So essentially the diet boundary is, imagine you have a line, and along that line you have a vertical line. For generally people who aren't dieting, they'll hit that line and then they'll kind of stop. They'll stop eating. Now they might have had a bag of chips or a kebab, but they'll hit at some point and they'll stop eating. However, I was going to sit down on there. Maybe not. It's a big giant pool underneath. Yeah. So, however, people who are on a diet have a different end line, a vertical line. So, if you can imagine that the ordinary dietary line is, let's say it's 10 blocks in. So imagine there's like various stops. So you go 10 stops in. People on a diet will shift that back to about 6 stops in. So that'd be their diet boundary. And what happens generally is that, and this is where 99% of diets fail, is that when people hit that 6th block, if they go over the edge of it, so if they eat something that's not strictly, in their diet, and they go over it, like they have a weak moment, they have some, I don't know, chocolate or some chips, they won't just stop at the 10th block, they will literally carry on. So that's why it's called a diet boundary, because once you overstep it, you really overstep it and you can't stop. I know it's true because I've experienced it myself. It's not great. You do kind of feel disappointed. I don't anymore kind of like operate like that. I'm trying to get into the habit. My problem at the moment is I am eating sort of like, I get home from work about 7:45, and for some reason I'm getting a second wind of hunger. And it's maybe not even hunger, maybe it's habit, but if I can stop eating after my lunch, then, or maybe I should eat something just a little bit later, just to stave off hunger. But I think it's more habit than anything, and that habit kind of means that I am just generally kind of like noshing when I get home. That's the reason why I can't keep the weight off at the moment. I'm not necessarily putting any extra weight on, but I can't keep it off. So all well and good me walking over here and there, but if you don't look after your diet, it's like going down the gym for an hour and a half and then having 3 bars of chocolate and a bag of crisps. It doesn't really kind of help situations. So this is nice. I've just seen a rabbit. Rabbits are nice. Not sure if there's any rabbits generally out at the moment, but something's just scampered into a bush anyway. That is the beauty of being in a place like this. Do you know what? It's just nice to not hear anything. It's just really, really nice. Just over there in the distance between where the green bit is, that's where the road is. It's not you can't drive down that road anymore. You used to be able to, but you can't anymore. You have to stop at the top. And at the top it was getting quite rutty to park, so it was very, you've got to be careful with your suspension and stuff. I mean, there's not enough money around anyway, but I would have thought, you know, that maybe if people care enough about their cars and driving their cars and stuff, they can have a whip round. But I honestly think though that they need to start charging for people to come into the park, and that might be a very unpopular thing to say, but you know, if you can take money off people legitimately and at the gates, and you know, let them drive in, then I think that would be a good thing to do. And but I'm not sure. There's always a lot of opposition to that, and you know, essentially it's Sutton Park's a nice place to come, and yeah, I think if they could charge, then they might have. Maybe just, I'm thinking very purely in a pure manner. Maybe they'll have a bit of money to actually look after, you know, some of the infrastructure of the roads and stuff. After all, it's the cars that's causing it, not people. So I've experienced it, and this is the reason why I haven't been at Cannock Chase. Probably the same thing, maybe a bit worse. So yeah, bog is rife, it's everywhere, and I have to kind of negotiate it. Don't know if I can jump over that. I don't want to really get too dirty. It's annoying. So I'm going to see if I can find a route round. I literally don't want to be trampling dirt around, and as it's such a nice day, I feel a bit aggrieved if I have to. See if there's a route through here. There might be. There aren't any dangerous snakes in the park. I think there might be the odd grass snake, perhaps. No, I can't get through there. Well, that was futile. Yeah, so I think there might be a few grass snakes. I'm pretty sure my dad found a grass snake here back in the day. That might have been Cannock Chase too, to be fair. These bushes used to extend right to the top, and back in the 70s, being kids, you name things, don't you? And we used to call it the mountain of adventure. So it was nice to. Okay, kind of made it over. I might sort of clean my footwear somewhere, some grass. Quick scroll. Not too bad, not too bad. So for some reason I can't zoom in or anything. I think it's because it's in like a stabilisation mode. So hello. Yeah. You're right. So I hope everything's alright with everybody out there. I mean, I've got about 20 something subscribers now on this channel. And I hope you're doing well. If you really love my posts, you'll think I'm some sort of like basket case or something, but it's how I live my life, and lots of things I enjoy, lots of things I'm developing, and as I said, less, you know, politics, more spiritual stuff. But I don't want to become too involved with. I find that if you get too involved with anything, it becomes a cult. As a paranormal investigator, the arguments that used to rage on certain groups, and I used to think, you know, they just get so anal about, you know, information and technical stuff, and you always got the clash between, you know, the you also have that clash between those who are mystically intertwined with the spiritual and those who have electrical equipment who can measure stuff. And for sure, you know, a lot of the times the electrical equipment guys are correct in what they say, but never dismiss people's experiences. And if you got video evidence, then you can always investigate that. But you know, for most people, they experience stuff becomes quite a central part of their lives. And a lot of people have anecdotes about the things like paranormal and otherworldly. Most of the time, they're just anecdotes that people read out across the breakfast, well, not across the dinner table, maybe. But for some people, it becomes a real passion, and for some it becomes an obsession, and for some it becomes a blind faith. And then on the other side of the table you have those who believe the science of things, measuring, observing, recording, discussing, concluding, which is just as important. And the one thing I always said in psychology was that the one thing that disappointed me was that different disciplines didn't always come together. You know, you've got your social psychologists, neuropsychologists, and you could have had like a supergroup if they all get together. And maybe they have since. Maybe I'm just not reading the names sometimes in journals that would suggest that. Yes, it's really nice. So I'm not really sure how far I'm going to go, but just enjoying walking on the grass. Yeah, as kids, when we used to come at the park with the dog, we used to play the game of run like hell, and one of us would hold the dog, and then we'd see how far we could get before the dog caught us up. She was only a little thing, a little cross collie, black. We used to call her Black Rat of Bulgaria. No reason why. She didn't come from Bulgaria, and she wasn't a rat. I actually named the dog when I was 10. I think that's when we got her. We were about 10. 9 or 10. And we had a golden Labrador before that. The golden Labrador had an issue. To put it simply, he was oversexed. He was a sex maniac, sex maniac. And what used to happen was, I used to come home from school sometimes, and the Labrador used to be waiting behind the gate, and he used to go on his hind legs and walk towards me, like one of those red rocket jobs. But worse than that, he used to sort of pull away from the lead, and he used to disappear and then come back about 4 a.m. in the morning. May have not been on the lead, I don't know. Generally, if my memory serves me, Dad used to walk him on the lead in the parks, but maybe it was off the lead. But he used to come out about 4 o'clock in the morning. So there must have been lots of little Duquesses and Duke Juniors knocking about in them days. And eventually, because we're moving, I think my dad decided he was a bit of a handful. So I think we sold him to a farm. The farm had him, and hopefully he had some lovely remaining days of his life. And then, so yeah, when we moved house, about a year after we were there, we obtained this little puppy, and going from having like this big muscular Labrador, we had this little puppy, and the first thing came in, Mum said, "So what should we call it?" And I burst into the room and said, "Oh look, the puppy ran behind the television and basically did a giant poo." So, and I observed, my 9-year-old self observed and vocalised that observation. "Mom, it's so mini." To which my mom said, "That's a good name." So we called the dog Minnie. Many happy time. You know, when you're young, you get a bit older, you don't really appreciate it. She must have lived quite a few years, so not sure how old she was as a puppy, you know, how many months or a year in. But, you know, we had her till about, thinking about it, about 1989, I think. And then she passed away. She had a heart attack. Didn't die straight away, but she had a stroke by the looks of it. And that was when we moved again, and we had a big garden, and we had some guys ahead. I just got to be a bit cautious. You never know. It's a park. So I'm going to skirt around these guys. I don't know what they're doing. I don't really want to be involved with people. There's always got to be two guys hanging in the woods. Never one guy. You can deal with one guy, but two guys. Don't know, might all be innocent, but I'm a little bit cautious. Right on the move now, anyway. I think it's all in something. It's an older couple. Sure. I can't believe how warm it is. I've just taken the stabilisation off on the phone, and might be a bit more wobbly, but yeah, I've just warned a guy back there just to be careful. Gets his phone out, he's got his headphones in, so might not automatically hear them coming. And yeah, they were a bit dodgy. You know, it's not a cold day, so they're, you know, riding around there. Damn balaclavas on. They should ban the balaclavas anyway. Yeah, okay, so if you go on a proper motorbike on a proper road, wear them, but